Just had a 10-minute phone call with President Donald Trump where he had some of his most extensive comments yet regarding Elon Musk and Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The big takeaway from his comments on Musk, when I asked if their relationship is over, Mr. Trump said, "I would assume so." He also told me he has no desire to repair ties with Musk. And he said he's more confident than ever that the big, beautiful bill can pass because he thinks Republicans are now more unified because of how Musk treated him. The president also told me that Musk would face very serious consequences if he funded Democratic candidates in the next election. When I asked the president what those would be, he wouldn't say.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the fallout between President Trump and Elon Musk, okay? A relationship that, in my opinion, has been destroyed, okay? To the point where I'm not sure if it can be repaired, okay? And one of the reasons why I say this is because, you know, Elon put out an accusation that I just don't think that he can come back from, okay? I mean, you have anti-Trump haters like Michael Cohen. Even he came out and said that, you know, this accusation that Elon put out against President Trump when it comes to Epstein, that might just be a little bit too far.
Is there a world in which these two transactional guys, Musk and Trump, figure out that it's better not to be fighting and come back together, or you think this
No, I think once Elon went so low in terms of talking about Epstein, and if we can stay on that topic for a quick second, look, I have extensive knowledge of Trump, being by his side for almost a decade and a half.
Right.
Let me dispel all of that notion. While he knew Jeffrey Epstein, and while, yes, he may be in the files in the form of Trump being in the black book, so were hundreds and hundreds of very name-worthy, influential individuals. I have zero knowledge of any relationship between Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, and I would have seen it over the course of
literally, because your prosecution was all about how much you knew, and your testimony to Congress was all about how much you knew.
And I'm telling you, it's nonsense. It's to the best of my knowledge and everything that I know, it's not true. In fact, there was one case that came up. It was a Jane Doe versus Donald Trump that brought this topic into question. And what ultimately I discovered is the Jane Doe, and there was an address in the Bronx. I sent an investigator to that address. I wanted to literally follow and find out who this Jane Doe was. There's not even a building there. It was a vacant lot. And so I reached out to the lawyers. That was the first and only case that I had any knowledge of all of these allegations. So that doesn't mean that the big, beautiful bill, which I call the big, beautiful disaster, is not legitimate and it's not going to affect Americans. Doesn't mean.
Yeah, and for that reason, this is why I'm not surprised that President Trump is not backing down when it comes to his refusal to entertain any type of conversation with Elon Musk or trying to repair the relationship, because ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, Elon crossed the line that you just don't cross, right? Especially, again, if you try to get the president to do you some favors, right? Which, again, I think that's what this was all about, okay? As President Trump, in this interview with NBC News, issue Elon a warning that if he decides to support Democrats, which, again, there are reports that Elon could try to seek revenge in the form of financially supporting Democrats, which would basically dispel any notion that this fallout is about the big, beautiful bill, right? Or about spending or the deficit, you know, the things that Elon claims that this is about. If he decides to support Democrats, there will be very serious consequences, right? That is what President Trump said in this interview with NBC News. Allegedly, that's what he said. And also on top of that, he said that he doesn't believe that the relationship can be repaired, okay? And that's just kind of where we're at, right? So he's issuing a warning to Elon Musk, and we're learning more about what happened behind the scenes, right? What actually upset Elon Musk. Now, this reporter, Miss Reagan Reese of the Daily Caller, so again, this is not a liberal outlet, right? This is a White House correspondent for a conservative outlet. She went on record to detail what she found out about what made Elon upset. So without further ado, let's get into it.
So I would love to know your opinion and what you found out last night about what is going on between Elon and Trump, and what is the show that we're seeing on Twitter.
Yeah, of course. So first I'll say I had the opportunity to sit with Elon Musk about a month ago. It was a private briefing. It was a bunch of mainstream media reporters, ABC News, CBS, NBC, New York Times, Washington Post, and Reagan. And that was awesome. And I sat right next to him, and we got to talk to him for an hour about his time in the Department of Government Efficiency. And he came in laughing. He was trying to tell us jokes, and he wanted us to tell him a joke in order to ask a question. And the White House did not let us bring our phones in, or did not want us to have any service. And I was like, my mind is blank. My editors are going to kill me. I don't have a question. I don't have a joke. And then quickly USA Today was like, no, let's speed this up. We're not doing that. All that to say, when we got talking to him, I noticed that he was just almost down in the dumps. I could tell he was frustrated and upset that he hadn't been praised as this champion, that his businesses were taking a hit, that his Teslas were being lit on fire. And so that made yesterday not as surprising to me, because what I heard when I spoke to my sources was that this isn't really about the big, beautiful bill. Elon Musk is going to tell you that he's upset about the big, beautiful bill. President Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson are going to tell you he's upset he didn't get the EV mandate as a part of the big, beautiful bill. But what my sources are telling me is that this has been months and months of frustration that's been building up, that Elon Musk is upset about the damage that has been done to his business. But he also wanted control over the White House and things that were happening in the administration. And he started to clash with cabinet officials. Marco Rubio wouldn't let him go into the State Department. He kind of got handcuffed a little bit at the Pentagon. Those are two things that annoyed him. He wasn't able to do his job. But the red line for Elon Musk was when he didn't get his NASA pick. He really wanted a certain pick for NASA. They told him that wasn't going to happen. He'd already really wanted an IRS pick. He already really wanted a CIA pick, didn't get those. So when he didn't get the NASA pick, it became really frustrating. And so what I think you're seeing now is just months and months of frustration building up and spilling out. And I think Elon Musk is a very smart, unique, successful man. It's almost really hard to comprehend how smart and successful he is. And so, of course, someone like that has unlocked something completely different. You know, he's incredible what he's achieved. And so I almost don't think that we're going to be able to understand him in full, because if we were, we would probably all be billionaires and have really successful businesses. So that, in short, is what we're seeing. I do think that there's hope for peace, and I do think if we know anything about Donald Trump, it's that he does forgive people, and he comes around eventually with people. And so I don't think that this is going to be a 3-year battle between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I think we'll see peace. I hope we see peace.
Yeah, I mean, I hope we see peace too, right? I just don't know if peace is something that I can see in regards to the light at the end of the tunnel right now. But again, what she's basically saying is what I've been telling you guys about what I thought was the actual issue, okay? Elon was not getting the power and control that he wanted. Specifically, when you talk about certain picks like the NASA pick, Jared Isaacman, who's actually super successful and qualified to lead NASA, okay? I mean, this guy is a billionaire entrepreneur, a pilot, a commercial astronaut who commanded Inspiration 4, which is the first all-civilian orbital mission, and led Polaris Dawn, in which he performed the first private spacewalk. He's logged over 7 days in space, and he's, again, the type of guy that you kind of want leading NASA, right? Like, I'm not entirely sure how you find a guy that's more qualified than him, but we're going to get into the reasons for why President Trump essentially kicked him to the curb. And I'm not going to lie, I heavily disagree with President Trump not making this guy the NASA administrator. I think that this is a mistake, right? A huge mistake on President Trump's part. But even after his NASA administrator nomination was withdrawn, he still showed a lot of gratitude towards President Trump.
It was a great interview. I mean, I never really met him in person. I shook his hand kind of once in passing 10 plus years earlier. And the president was incredibly knowledgeable. I was impressed. He knew a lot about the space program, which makes sense. He helped with Commercial Crew return operational capability to the U.S. with Dragon. A big push on the Artemis program, created the Space Force. He knew a lot. He knew a lot about China. We talked a lot about their Air Force, actually, which I thought was interesting. Some of my defense experience, and it was incredible. I mean, it was an hour plus long, and I came away with it feeling really good about the opportunity. I love NASA, and I was so excited to contribute. I was honored that the president nominated me. I mean, you've got the best and brightest that show up to work every day and want to win in the high ground of space, and I would have been thrilled to work alongside him. It was
So you seen that, you heard that. Now, rumors are that the reason why he was removed is after lobbying by Sergio Gore, who serves as the director of the White House Presidential Personnel Office. Okay, so again, this guy is kind of in charge of helping President Trump hire people and to pick people. And he basically, at least this is what they're saying, he basically said, well, no, this guy is not loyal enough. Now, keep in mind, this dude does not like Elon, right? So again, you had anti-Elon people trying to undermine everything that Elon was trying to do. Okay, so they were in the president's ear saying, oh, you can't trust him, right? He's not a good guy. Okay, we've already talked about this. People like Steve Bannon and this guy, again, were fighting tooth and nail to basically get Elon kicked to the curb, right? That is what was happening, okay? And President Trump basically ended up siding with this dude for whatever reason, which I think is a mistake when you're talking about picking personnel, right? Again, even Laura Loomer here is defending Jared Isaacman. She's saying that he is an innovator and not a registered Democrat. Yes, he did donate to Democrats, but you also have other people who've donated to Democrats as well, too. Jared is a registered Republican in the state of Pennsylvania, and he was the most qualified person for the position of NASA administrator. He's donated $2 million to President Trump's inaugural committee, and his donations to Trump are 7 times the amount he donated to Democrats. Those are just the facts. Regardless of who you support for the role of NASA administrator, I am not trying to change anybody's mind. I am simply posting facts. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Laura Loomer here, right? I think that this is not a good move by President Trump. And again, I think that it's fair to be highly critical of President Trump for nixing this guy's nomination for whatever reason, right? Just because he donated to some Democrats. I mean, you can make the argument that, again, a lot of people in the White House right now either used to be Democrats or donated to Democrats. This guy spent a lot of money helping President Trump. He's super qualified. I think that was the wrong move, okay? But regardless, again, that wasn't the only reason why Elon's tenure at the White House was on thin ice. Apparently, him and Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, got in a physical fight. Now, again, Elon wanted his own guy to lead the IRS. Scott Bessent wanted his guy, okay? And Scott Bessent is the Treasury Secretary. So the IRS is kind of under his jurisdiction, and Elon basically tried to overstep that, allegedly, and according to people like Steve Bannon. So again, this is in the Washington Post. Take it with a grain of salt. They got in a physical fight, right? Apparently, Scott Bessent called Elon Musk a fraud, right? And Musk then rammed his shoulder into Bessent's rib cage like a rugby player, Bannon said, and Bessent hit him back. Multiple people stepped in to break up the scrum as the two men reached the National Security Advisor's office, and Musk was shuffled out of the West Wing. President Trump heard about it and said, "This is too much," Bannon said. So again, Elon had multiple run-ins with multiple people, right? Allegedly, right? Allegedly. So again, I know a lot of this is kind of hearsay, but it all makes sense, right? Considering the lashing out by Elon. So with that being said, Elon basically opened up the door for an apology, right? To apologize to President Trump as he started deleting his tweets, okay? The post that he made about President Trump accusing him of basically being linked to Jeffrey Epstein. He started deleting these things, okay? Which suggests that he realizes that, you know what? He might have made a mistake. And which, again, I 100% understand why Elon is mad. I mean, just learning more information, more details about what allegedly happened, I kind of get it, right? Like, it's hard to imagine if you're not going to trust Elon Musk when it comes to who's going to lead NASA, then, I mean, who else can you trust, to be honest with you? I mean, Elon, I mean, his endorsement is like the most powerful endorsement that you can have when it comes to that. And we all know how passionate Elon is about going to Mars. I think Isaacman leading NASA would have helped him accomplish that goal in regards to getting closer to doing that. And I really do feel like he could have tolerated everything else had he got his way with the NASA administrator. And I think that was just the last straw for him. But regardless, he is being urged to apologize. One of the architects of DOGE, James Fishback, who I've talked about before on this channel, who apparently is pretty close to Elon Musk or close enough to get Elon's attention, he's demanding that Elon apologize, right? He's saying, listen, you're tweeting about starting a new party, but you owe the president an apology, right? You need to apologize, and the longer that you delay, the less sincere the apology will seem when you eventually apologize, right? Like, you need to apologize for what you said. Now, Elon responded by saying, what's the apology for exactly? Be precise. And then Elon responded again. He says, I will apologize profusely as soon as there is a full dump of the Epstein files. Yeah, so, you know, Elon is saying that he'll apologize when the Epstein files are dumped. He actually went on to delete these tweets, right? These posts. So again, Elon is he's struggling, right? He's struggling right now because he keeps deleting his posts. He seems to be open to trying to fix his relationship, but then again, you know, we just really don't know, right? I think there's a whole lot of confusion right now with Elon and what he's going through. But regardless, James Fishback, he's been on multiple shows, Fox News, CNN, urging Elon to apologize to the president, right? Saying, listen, Elon, you got to make this right. You're in the wrong. And you need to humble yourself and apologize and get back in the good graces of the president, okay? And actually, James Fishback has left the DOGE movement as a protest for what Elon did. So let's actually listen in on his interview that took place on CNN.
Have to apologize for two things. The first of which is randomly calling for the impeachment of the duly elected president of the United States over a policy disagreement, this big, beautiful bill, which I support entirely. That's not okay. I mean, at least the Democrats had the common courtesy of making up the Ukraine hoax to then go after the president in his first term to impeach him. Elon Musk did so over a simple disagreement on a policy. And the second, and it just pains me to bring this up, is this slanderous accusation that somehow the president of the United States was a co-conspirator in a multi-decade sex trafficking ring of minors. The president is a father, a husband, and a grandfather. He has no association with Epstein whatsoever. He threw him out of his Mar-a-Lago club because he was a scumbag. And now to have Elon Musk drag this in the mud, it's not okay. As Americans, we are allowed to disagree on the substance of the issue, but ad hominem attacks have no place in the public square.
That's certainly true. I don't know that President Trump has always adhered to that particular philosophy, and I know your smirk actually confirms my thinking on that. But you also said that you're leaving the DOGE movement after Musk's attacks on Trump. What was your final straw?
My final straw was, look, for months now, Elon set expectations, 2 trillion, 1.5 trillion, 1 trillion. And if you take the numbers at face value on Doge.gov right now, it's 170 billion. Now that's real money. I think that Sesame Street in Iraq should have been defunded. That's about $1,100 a taxpayer as it stands right now. But the truth is the DOGE movement ought to continue, and it will, with the cabinet secretaries like Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Duffy in their own respective agencies, identifying waste, fraud, and abuse, making the government more leaner and more accountable to taxpayers like you and me and your listeners at home. But the truth of the matter is that Elon Musk set expectations with the president, with me, and with the country that he did not fulfill. The DOGE movement has to continue, and I'm eager to support that movement in a new light.
Now, in Elon's defense, if the reports are true, which is that Elon was being denied access to certain things, then you can't blame him when he doesn't accomplish what he said he was going to accomplish, right? I mean, if he says, hey, we're going to cut $1 trillion, and you're saying, no, Elon, you can't get access to the Pentagon, right? Then, I mean, it's going to be hard to accomplish that goal, right? If you're denying him access to the things he wants, if you're not giving him enough control to actually do it, then it's not going to get done, right? I mean, it's going to be hard to cut things when you're not getting the access into control. So, I mean, it's one of those things where I kind of feel like Elon is taking some heat for not doing what he promised he was going to do, but he wasn't actually given the power to do so. So I kind of get why he's frustrated, right? To be honest with you. Now, again, that doesn't excuse the way that he acted out, because he definitely went about it in the wrong way. I think he could have finessed going about expressing his grievances, okay, in a way that probably would have been better for him. But I do understand his frustrations, right? That's the thing. Like, I'm not trying to be too hard on Elon, because I kind of get how somebody like him thinks in the sense that, you know, hey, he's a very hardcore type of dude. And a lot of people can't keep up with how hardcore Elon is. And I think it scares people, right? It intimidates people. And I think that's part of the reason why he had some issues with building relationships in the White House.
What does that look like? Obviously, he was a special government employee and his time was supposed to be limited. You didn't believe that it was going to all be accomplished, his objectives within that amount of time. There must be something else that led you astray.
Well, I think I'm a big believer. I was a high school debater 15 years ago, Laura, and we were always taught to separate our opponent from the argument. And when you make the argument about your opponent, when you steep to these personal, slanderous, vicious attacks against a father, a grandfather, a husband, the president of the United States who won the Electoral College, the popular vote, all 7 swing states.
Which President Trump has done as well, you know.
Well, look, I think I don't want to judge the president or anybody by what they may have done 4, 8, 10 years ago. The truth of the matter is the president has been exceptionally gracious, magnanimous, and patient with these slanderous attacks. They are beneath him. He is taking the high road as he should, and we all should compliment him on doing so. As the president just said on Air Force One, he's focused on bigger things, Laura. There's a jobs report today, 140,000 jobs created, all of which were in the private sector, not in the government sector, not here in the DC zip codes, but hardworking folks across this country are getting back to work. You heard the president say he's making progress on the U.S.-China front, on the Iran front, on the Russia front. He doesn't have any time, no distractions to deal with Elon Musk. He is focused on delivering on that historic mandate Americans gave him in November.
Well, certainly I hope a president of any country, let alone this one, would focus on the priorities that he has laid out as opposed to Twitter wars, although he has elevated Elon Musk as an advisor such that the American public and the world is paying attention to him in a very different realm. And if he was once the right-hand man, either philosophically or otherwise, he has made a bit of this bed for himself. But what about this big, beautiful bill, as it's called? Why do you think Elon Musk is wrong about it?
Well, the big, beautiful bill is not merely a good bill, it's a great bill. You take President Trump's campaign promises, think about it, deliver tax relief for working families, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, delivering tax relief for seniors. That benefits hardworking Americans all over this country. That's in the big, beautiful bill. Increase in border security of $70 billion, a one-time increase to ensure that we have more detention center space, more ICE agents, a fully sealed border. The truth is that the illegal migrants that came into this country under President Biden, over 12 million, they're costing taxpayers about $150 billion a year.
But also CBO, speaking of money to taxpayers, says that this bill could increase it by like trillions. I mean, you have a number that's talking about if taxpayer money is an issue. Is that not a concern of yours?
Well, the interesting thing about the CBO survey, their forecast is that they don't take into account, one, the tariff revenue, which is going to be about $2 trillion over the next 10 years. Number two, they don't take into account...
If the tariff revenue stands, right?
But
that's
just,
an if, but go ahead.
There's a lot of ifs here.
Sure.
And the second one is, if you secure the border and save taxpayers $150 billion a year, Trump has done that 99% reduction in border crossings since President Biden was thrown out of office. What ends up happening, Laura, is you save the taxpayer money in the process. The CBO has not put that in their model. And then finally, they assume that the Trump tax cuts, which everybody in D.C., Republican and Democrat, would tell you were going to continue, they assumed they would expire, and therefore their model does not accurately reflect that. The truth of the matter is the CBO is not a nonpartisan organization, Laura. 8 out of 10 employees who work there are registered Democrats. We should be skeptical of the forecast for that reason, but also for the substantive reasons I just laid out.
The Republicans also have touted the CBO over time. Is it not a good organization or good entity at all if it doesn't support what you're saying?
No, what the CBO did 20 years ago, 30 years ago under President Clinton or President Bush is very different than the highly polarized environment that exists today. I think both you and I can agree with that. The truth of the matter is when there's gaping holes in their models and forecasts when it comes to tariff revenue, when it comes to the actual net benefit of cutting out illegal labor and illegal immigration that actually saves the taxpayer money, the CBO model does not estimate that whatsoever. This is a good bill. It delivers on President Trump's promises, and it's a shame that because it doesn't have Elon Musk's electric vehicle subsidies that he would oppose it.
Are you?
Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. Now, again, this guy, James Fishback, is an interesting character. He is super well-spoken. He might be too well-spoken, right? If that's even possible. In the sense is like, this guy, he seems to be a little bit too buttoned up, right? I mean, he might be interviewing for a job or something, right? There could be something else going on here. But apparently he is somewhat close to Elon Musk, and he's demanding that Elon apologize, right? And I think that for Elon, that's probably the right move, okay? And after the apology, I think he should probably kind of, back off from politics, right? Kind of chill out a little bit, maybe support behind the scenes. I don't think the move for Elon is to continue to hold his grudge, to try to get revenge against President Trump and then start supporting Democrats, because Democrats are trying to get Elon back, because like I told you guys, these politicians are prostitutes, okay? They want the money. They're going to have their legs wide open for Elon Musk. There's already reports about at least some House Democrats saying, hey, we got to get Elon Musk back on our side. Even after they called him a Nazi, you have Adam Schiff doing this thing where he said, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Elon Musk is right, right? So basically, they're low-key trying to give a wink and a nod to Elon and say, hey, listen, if you want to screw us, we got our legs wide open, right? If you want to give us some of that money, right, we can do a trick for you, right? That is what Democrats are saying, right? That's what they're saying. And that's just kind of how politics works. Again, this is fascinating stuff. We're going to see what happens. I really hope that Elon tries to make things right with President Trump. I think that our country's in a better place when Elon and President Trump are working together. But I think that Elon has to keep his distance. And I think that President Trump needs to keep Elon at a distance as well, too. But at the same time, again, when it comes to the NASA administrator thing, I would like to see President Trump renominate Jared Isaacman, right? Like, make that right. Like, I would really like to see him become the NASA administrator. I just don't think that it was a good move to nix the guy. But, that's just me. I think that's ideally what I would like to see. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.